hope you're ready for this.
Gonna be fun.
You will not stand in my way.
Frostborn. Hunger. This pleases me.
I do not fear you, mortal.
Your soul shall be mine.
Don't make me laugh.
Needs a brew? Oh, I do. Feel a shredding, baby. Let the battle begin.
So hello and welcome to the 76th episode of the Nexus Trolls, a podcast all about Heroes of the Storm, part of the Trolls.gg Entertainment Network. I'm your host, Daz, and I'm joined today as always by Mystic. Mystic, we've got a pretty amazing day today, one that we need to mark on the calendars because we've taken our standards and we've lowered them significantly because we've got FringeAverage on the show. Fringe, welcome to the show. And thanks for bringing our standards just that much lower, bud.
Oh yeah, thank you for having me, and again, thank you for lowering your standards, which is kind of funny. That's actually been like the tagline now. That was just more of a joke when we had people on, but now it's more like people expect me to say it every show apparently now.
I'm glad you explained that in case anyone's watching this. Or like, you guys are being horrible to your poor guest here, but yeah, it's like an ongoing thing for the GankBush Squad, which Fringe is the host of. Fringe, you want to tell us a little bit about GankBush Squad and what do you guys do over there?
It's a Heroes of the Storm podcast. Basically, we have our little shtick is that there's 5 or 6 of us, and usually we all represent different play levels. So we talk about the game from a master's point of view, or a diamond, or a silver, or a bronze type, silver type player point of view, and then we just discuss the game and how to get better. And so I think our show is primarily just geared towards improvement and getting better at the game, pretty much.
Whenever anyone asks me about the GankBush Squad, I'm always like, it's kind of like our show, but with a lot more dick jokes.
A little bit. Well, to be honest, like Bacon is the one who does most of those now. I think the rest of us have kind of matured, while Bacon has kind of regressed. Yeah,
balance that out.
Well, I guess, for us, it's just like it's a group of friends in a laid-back format where we just, we just ramble about stuff, and sometimes we take side turns that go nowhere, and then we come back around to the main topic, and it's like a free-flowing conversation.
One of the great things about you guys and your community too, that you've got to get like the Windtimer community, is that you guys are so tight knit. Like whenever I come out into your Discord and just like see what's going on, like you guys are all like playing games, you're in voice comms together. It seems like you've got like this little micro community within HOTS that I'm definitely jealous of, and I'm glad to be a part of too, because I'm often hanging out there as well and like looking for a game too. So I mean, that must be a pretty awesome thing to have as part of your podcast.
Yeah, I mean, like you guys, the trolls and like Goon Hots, like you guys are all pretty much like cousins of the podcast, and I think people like our fans. I think we're kind of like the misfits of the HOTS community, and that's like in college we had like the odd jobs that no one really wanted. So like, we worked at the parking lot like a mile away from campus, as the parking lot person that took your payment and stuff like that. Or like in high school, we were the ones that were in track and then went home right after track and played World of Warcraft all night, so.
Yeah, well, it's definitely one of the more entertaining podcasts too. Like I listen to most podcasts, but only a couple regularly, and GankBush is definitely on that list. So if you haven't heard it before, I know a lot of our listeners listen to you guys anyways, but if you haven't, definitely check out Fringe and the guys over at GankBush Squad. The links for that are in the show notes, but just gankbushsquad.com. You can find all the stuff you need over there. So Fringe, I got a couple questions for you too. It's cool. We were talking off camera. I was surprised. I don't think we've ever had you on the show before. We've had Bacon on a couple times. I mean, I guess you came on to do like the Nexus feud when we did it, but we haven't actually had you on before. So I feel like we can talk about being like podcast hosts a little bit too, and like what that means. But one thing I wanted to ask you about specifically before we get on that, because I guess we're covering that in a later segment, is more like, how did you get into all this? Like, why did you decide to get into podcasting for Heroes of the Storm of all topics?
Oh, well, so I was podcasting. I was working at a baseball, a couple of baseball websites, and we did a couple shows there. So I was just pretty much the guy who showed up and, just did the podcast. And then, I stopped working for those sites, and then I started playing HOTS with my brothers, and who were also on the show. And we started playing, and then Scott was a friend of ours since like grade school, and then we just started playing, and then we ended up just talking a lot about the game on Skype. And then I just said we should just record it, and then we just ended up recording it, and then the show came into fruition.
109 episodes later, eh?
Yeah, like more than 2 years ago. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah.
And things have changed, I guess, a lot since the first one. Like, Bacon wasn't on the show. You guys weren't streaming live on Twitch. No one knew what you guys looked like, right? Like, the show's evolved quite a bit since you started. What have you gone back and listened to any of your old episodes?
No, I'm not that masochistic, but Bacon. The reason why we invited Bacon on is because we needed to have at least one Korean on the show. So who could actually, carry us to greater heights? So we brought on Bacon randomly to the show. Yeah, he messaged me in BNet in our Windtime channel, and then I said, "Yeah, I'm on vacation. You want sub in for me?" And then he subbed in, and then he just kept coming back. We didn't invite him back. He just kept showing up, so he just ended up becoming a part of the show.
What we should do is we should get Mystic and Bacon to have like a 1v1 like showdown in game to see who can like out micro the other guy. I'd love to see it, just like on an ARAM map or something.
You know what they could do is sign up for Bush League Season 2, and then they can have their teams fight each other week after week, and then we'll really know who's really better.
Fringe, they're too good for us in our poor Bush League here. But
and like as since me and you both participate in the league, it doesn't really matter how good you are. It's good at how good you make your team, because there's lots of a lot goes into making your team be successful or not in that particular type of format. And I think there's way more than just mechanical or knowing the meta. You have to motivate your team to get better and all that other fun stuff too. So it's a lot of fun, actually.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know what Bush League is, it's a weekly league that we at the Trolls GG Network are doing with the guys over at GankBush Squad, as well as Nexus Commentaries. We have show hosts and listeners join together, a whole wide variety of skill levels, just playing week to week. It's been a lot of fun. We're going to talk about this a bit in the new segment, but might as well talk about it here since Fringe brought it up. But we're looking forward. Like, our team has lost, like me and LiQuiuD are on the same team. We've lost all 3 games. We've got a rematch coming up against Fringe's team this week. And I think it's time to unhorse you guys, whatever. I want to take you guys down a peg or two, because I think you're a little bit on your high horse there, bud.
Unhorse, huh? That sounds like oddly sexual. Tell me more about this.
I was thinking more like jousting, like, hitting you off the horse so you'd fall off or something. I don't know.
Oh, okay, that sounds better.
Yeah, but
yeah, well, we'll see how it goes. Like, I'm very excited about playing you guys again. We won't take you guys lightly, despite the record. But we're really excited about playing. And actually, we're gonna have a sub. We're gonna have our Yelly be your sub this week, so we'll have a sub on our team.
Oh, you're already making excuses, are you?
Oh no, Yelly's really good. Like, it's just that it changes the way we draft a little bit, but Yelly's really good. So I just wanted to let you know now, because I almost actually forgot to tell you.
That's all right. It's not a big deal. It's Bush League. It's a beer league, right? So it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, we come in to just have a good time, if nothing else. But
I read that article that San wrote about your Q&A yesterday, and I have a little. You said that for the Bush League that you just play to have fun, right? Or that you don't take it seriously? Or no, sorry, that you just play to have fun. It doesn't really matter if you win or lose, right? Is that what you said in the article?
I can't remember the exact wording, but more or less, it's more like just showing up to have fun, right?
Yeah, but it's more fun when you win.
I guess fun is defined by different parameters, right? Depending on who you are, too, right? I know one of our frequent show listeners, Super Dave. I play with him a lot, and I know he has a lot more fun in game when he's winning. And I can often have just as much fun when I'm losing, depending on what we're doing and who I'm playing with and such too, right? So it just really depends, I think, on what your parameters for fun are, and just make sure you have fun in the game. So, but yeah, fun. Yeah, winning is definitely more fun than losing.
He talks to himself a lot when he plays. Have you noticed that?
Super Dave?
Yeah. Like, if he misses a minion kill, he'll talk about that as if no one can hear him. I don't know. Maybe
he's
it's-
probably talking to you, but just
Hey,
not really.
I don't know.
directly that way.
It seems like he's like a self monologue type of guy where he's just talking to himself about, oh, I should have done that. I should have done that.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. He's on my team, so I'm used to it now. Took a little while to get used to, but anyway, I don't know why we're talking about that.
I know.
Self-critiquing, okay?
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
good technique there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mystic actually played on Chair League with Super Dave too, but you know what? I don't want to get bogged down talking about poor old
Uh-oh.
Super Dave too long. Let's get the show moving along first. I want to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/trollsgg. If you're looking for a way to support the show, you can definitely head over there and do so. And I want to thank our newest patron, who is also our Troll of the Week. And I'm about 99% sure that this is the new patron. You just put his name down as Baron, but I'm pretty sure it's Tower Baron, who also happens to be Fringe's brother. So, Tower Baron, thanks for pledging your support and being a friend of the show. You're officially our Troll of the Week. And with that being said, let's roll into the news.
Someday, this will make a great story.
So our first news item is actually Bush League, which we've already talked about a little bit. Just kind of the conversation naturally flowed into that. But just for those of you that don't know, we play on Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Next week, we're taking on Fringe's team, as we already said. You can find all the information for that at trolls.gg/bush-league. Next week's cast by Stixa, who's a great up-and-coming caster. Definitely, if you don't even check out this week's Bush League, check out Stixa and some of the stuff he does. He casts a lot of like Tespa training grounds, a lot of other like Chair League and everything too when that comes back up as well. And Goon has been doing replay analysis. He's got the replay analysis for our last loss over at twitch.tv/GoonHots. And Goon's one of the smarter people I know who has a great analytical mind for the game. So he's really good at breaking it down. And I believe Fringe, you popped in on a couple of those casts by Goon. Did you pop in last week's one? Because I know you're on it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I go every week. 'Cause I learn a lot, and it's actually really informative. And is Stixa going to be doing the casting on Monday? I thought he had frame issues with his computer.
Nope,
Is
he
that
is. Stixa's back in, so Stixa's doing next week. It was going to be
Ooh,
Goon
all right.
to sub in for Stixa, but Stixa had some computer issues, which he has since rectified. So he's good to go
Okay.
for next week.
Yeah, like the people who do participate in Bush League are actually the vast majority of them are actually learning a lot. They're actually improving because now they're actually watching the content that Goon has been making. Bacon is giving a replay analysis to some players and stuff like that. So people are actually learning and getting better at the game because of Bush League, and it's actually really cool to see actually.
Yeah, and I've loved.
Well, there, Daz. It sounds like this is a little bit more competitive than some people initially thought here.
It's a community's kind of formed around it, unintentionally so. But you know what? We do have a main topic that we're gonna be talking more about Bush League. I kind of want to save some of this chatter for that because a lot of it's
Okay.
going to be covered when we get into the Troll the Nexus portion of the show. I don't want to spoil like some of the stuff we're going to talk about in the news segment. So some of the other news we had to Heroes of the Dorm. Have you been watching any Heroes of the Dorm, Fringe?
I watched a little bit. I watched Invernum and Halloran the other day. Yeah, it's I saw Berkeley play. I think a game or two.
Yeah, my my bracket is not doing so well, but we've got Buffalo and Kentucky in the finals, and I guess there's a couple games going on tonight. Laval and UConn are playing, and North Texas and CPP for the Heroic Four. Whoever wins this week goes in the Heroic Four, which is on May the 12th. Too. That's like the big final LAN event that they're having. So,
Oh, awesome.
yeah, but here's the dorm. It seems it's a lot better this year than it was last year. That's for sure.
Yeah, fun fact is that one of our listeners won the Heroes of the Dorm online tournament thing, and he won like $10,000.
Oh,
like
sweet.
2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, the one when they played in Seattle. Maybe that was 2 years ago, but he won the actual bracket and won money.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I wonder if
yeah.
anyone's got a chance still because they had the $1 million if you got it perfect. I remember trying to crunch the numbers on it being like next to impossible. But I wonder if anyone's still in the running for that. That'd be pretty impressive. I think there's been a lot of upsets along the way.
That's extremely hard to do.
Yeah, no doubt in any sport, let alone something like this where you don't necessarily know a lot about the teams, right?
Oh yeah.
So one thing that's coming up the day before BlizzCon that we want to talk a little bit about too is Calm Before the Storm, something that Fringe, myself, and Mystic hold close to our hearts as well. It's kind of like a pre-con event, which is absolutely free. So if you're going to BlizzCon, definitely check it out. They've got a Kickstarter page that just went up. They basically have like a whole bunch of art exhibits, meet and greets. They have podcasting panels, which Bacon and LiQuiuD were both part of last year too, and it sounds like they're even expanding on that. So probably better not to listen just to me about this, but they actually came up with an official announcement about this. I'm just going to roll that here. So here's the bumper for Calm Before the Storm.
The hype for BlizzCon 2018 has begun, and so has our planning for this year's Con Before the Storm.
Con Before the Storm will bring together fans and content creators for all of Blizzard franchises once again at the Anaheim Hilton on November 1st.
This is the largest Blizzard community-built event, and it's made possible thanks to everyone who supports our Kickstarter campaign, which is now live at conbeforestorm.com.
Our initial funding goal is $13,500, and we're confident we can hit that goal with the community's help.
As always, we plan to include meet and greet opportunities with dozens of content creators, including artists, podcasters, Twitch streamers, esports personalities, and much more.
Returning fan favorites that are already confirmed for this year include badge artist Egg Dishes and Tepish, as well as the return of shirt and button designer Nadia Lee.
Finally, it wouldn't be Con Before the Storm without World of Podcasts, which will be celebrating its 6th-year anniversary.
However, our plans for World of Podcast have grown, as have the costs to make it a reality, and we need your help to bring World of Podcast back for its best year yet.
Get ready for a great night of podcasting content should we hit our stretch goal of $24,500.
To learn more about our plans, stretch goals, and backer rewards, go to conbeforestorm.com and follow at conbeforestorm on Twitter for ongoing updates. See you at BlizzCon!
Holy crap, I just checked out their Kickstarter page too. They're already at $10,000. It's only been up for like a day, maybe two. So they're already over halfway to their goal to fund the event. I know, I don't think it's going to be an issue because it's such a popular event and a lot of great backer rewards they have too. So, but definitely encourage everyone to head over there and pledge their support. I know I'll definitely be doing that. I think Fringe mentioned that he's already done it too. I'll check it out. It's a great event and definitely attend it if you're coming to BlizzCon. So also, Deckard Cain finally got launched on the PTR as well. And there are a couple changes that came in with the PTR as well. Not too many big ones, except for one to Genji, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on the show. But there were some small changes to Cassian Phoenix. Sylvanas' Shadow Dagger now actually will briefly reveal enemies once spreading. I tried to test this out, and it seems it's like a very quick reveal. It doesn't actually stay revealed for very long. Zagara's Nidus and Blaze's Bunker can now be exited in the direction of choosing by right-clicking. Bunker, I think you used to have to press R or D or something to get out of it. Now you can just right-click to get out of it, thank God. And there was also some undocumented changes, too. And I actually had a game on the PTR on Warhead Junction. The boss there has changed a little bit. They don't have banelings anymore. He doesn't burrow down. He just kind of shoots out his pods, and it's a lot more pods now. And there's these impact zone warning spots that kind of hit the ground. And when he's in lane, there's no more of that, none of that slime trail, which is really annoying when you're trying to kite the boss. And the pods that it shoots out are actually going to target structures as well. Did you guys see any of that? Have you tried out Warhead Junction with the new boss mechanic?
I didn't see any of that, but it sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I always found that boss kind of annoying, especially the slime trail that he had when you were trying to defend against it. I'm really glad they got rid of that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm curious to see if that actually gets put on the live server, because I don't think they actually said that in the notes, right? Or am I wrong?
It's weird when they don't put them in the notes. I only came across this on Twitter. Someone mentioned it, and I was like, is that right? Because it seems like a pretty big change not to have in the patch notes, but actually playing the game, when I got a chance to play Warhead, I was like, oh, hey, it is a lot different. It's really strange, because the banelings don't follow you around anymore, and you can't dodge them that way. You just see where the pods are going to land, and you just have to get out of the way, essentially. So it's a little bit different of a mechanic. Maybe I think I've seen you die to poison the boss before on one of your streams there, Fringe. So I guess maybe that'll be a little bit easier to avoid now.
I actually didn't even realize people watch the games that I put on Twitch, but now I know.
now you know you're not just playing
That's
for
awful.
yourself, eh?
Yeah.
Gotta be careful what you do. Okay, let's move into the main segment of the show. It's called Troll the Nexus. We've got 7 topics today. We're going to be talking about Frail Old Deckard, Deckard Cain. We're going to be talking about Ancient Blessings and how I think it's nuts. That's his level 13 talent. We're going to be talking about Genji with What-Shimada with You. Kala came out with a video that we're going to be talking about that, struck a chord with Fringe about low rank heroes and when you're trying to grind out of low ranks, what heroes you should be selecting. So we'll get Fringe's opinions on that. We're going to be talking about solo laners and the solo lane. We're going to be talking about Bush League in a bit more detail, and then we're going to be talking about the life of a podcaster since we got 3 of us on the show today. But yes, so starting with the first one, Frail Old Deckard. So I'm going to go over his kit quickly before we get in a little bit of a discussion about him and see what everyone's experiences have been with him on the PTR, at least just theory crafting about what we think he's going to be like once he releases live. So I feel like Deckard needs no introduction. He's from Diablo. He's one of the main storytelling characters from that game. He's a melee support, hits weaker than a wet noodle. His auto attacks are absolutely atrocious. His trait is called Fortitude of the Faithful. When at least there's one other allied hero nearby, Deckard gains 10 armor, and his basic abilities actually recharge 50% faster. His Q is called Healing Potion. It's on 20 mana, 3-second cooldown. You can throw a healing potion onto the ground, or actually you can throw it at someone if it lands on them. It will heal them, or the first allied hero that touches it, for 230, and you can have up to 5 active potions on the floor. His W is Heraldric Cube. It's on a 14-second cooldown, 40 mana. You throw out a Heraldric Cube, and after a delay, it does about 80 damage to all enemies in the area and slows them by 40% for 1.75 seconds. And you can put these gems into the Heraldric Cube as well to augment what kind of comes out of it. His E is called Scroll of Sealing. It's a massive AoE root, super slow cast time, 16-second cooldown. You unfurl an ancient scroll in a big triangle that deals 150 damage to enemies and roots them for 1.5 seconds. His 2 ultimates, Stay a While and Listen, 60 mana, 60-second cooldown. After 1 second, you channel for 3 seconds, putting enemy heroes in front of Deckard to sleep while channeling. It's kind of like a 180-degree almost cone around him, really massive area. And for 2 seconds afterwards, they're still asleep too. Enemies can only be put to sleep once per cast, and then sleep's effect end instantly if they take damage, as per usual. And then finally, Lornado, 40 mana, 30-second cooldown. It's vector targetable. You create a swirling Lornado that travels in a target direction, very much like the boss from... what bosses have this tornado bit? Sky Temple boss. You push in a certain direction, it continually knocks away heroes that come into contact with it. So, have either of you guys had much chance to play any Deckard? Have you taken him on for a spin on the PTR yet?
Yeah, I took a spin on him on just try mode, testing out a lot of different things, and it was kind of interesting.
Well, what are your initial thoughts with him after you had some playtime with him?
I think his healing potion, it comes with kind of a caveat to use, right? So one thing to note is that it heals anybody who has lost any health whatsoever, even if you've only lost 1 HP. The healing potion will still heal you. So that's something to think about. The other thing is, so throwing it on allies, you can miss, obviously, the same with Ana. And then another thing is so you'll want to use the healing potions is either throwing it on someone directly, which is really good if you're really good at predicting where your allies are going and you're aiming, or you can throw them off to areas where there is not as high of traffic, if you know what I mean. So you kind of throw the healing potion off to the side, and then your allies can choose when to pick it up if they need it, instead of just you're just throwing it right at the gate, and everybody's moving to and from there, and some of the people that actually need the healing aren't getting the healing, and some of the people that don't need the healing, they only have 2 HP missing, they're picking up the potion. So there's a little of that. His other abilities, the cube I thought was pretty good. Scroll of Sealing needs a little bit more combo to be used effectively.
It's hard to hit that Scroll of Sealing. It's a really long wind up, and it's pretty easy to get out of it because I feel like it's an awkward shape being a triangle. If it was a circle or something, it'd be harder to get out of, but it's almost like a very short distance to any edge to get out of that Scroll of Sealing, and you've got a long time to see it coming. So if you don't have that combo, if you don't have a lot of slows on you or CC, you're pretty much gonna get out of that. Fringe, have you had a chance to play Deckard at all on the PTR or try him out at all?
Yeah, and also I just wanted to say thanks Grizzly and Nadaton for the bits in chat. So, but yeah, I have tried him. I think that I'm kind of underwhelmed by him. I know he's kind of overtuned right now with the healing amount that he provides, but I think in 2 or 3 weeks when he gets nerfed, I don't think he's going to be nearly as good as I once thought he was, because he's not going to do any damage. Like he won't do any damage because like he has to be in melee range, and his attack speed is really slow. So I think all of his damage is going to come from his spells, and one of those spells, like that big triangle, is going to be hard to get. So I think he's kind of he's going to be. I think he's going to be. And again, I'm in the minority here, but I think he's the going to be like the Medivh of supports, where he provides a lot of utility, and then once he's balanced, only like the really good players will get tremendous value out of him.
He feels clunky to me. Like when I played him, I think he's fairly underpowered, maybe just because of how I'm playing him or whatever. But like I thought it would be similar to Ana, like that you have like a skill shot healing, but you can throw it over people, so maybe you could hit them a bit more reliably. But there's a little bit of a delay when you throw the potions, and it's not instantaneous. Like Ana's snipe is so fast, it's kind of hard to miss. I mean, you obviously can if they've got a small hitbox, but I feel like trying to like land it on the person you want in a team fight, it can be really difficult, especially if there's a lot of motion. I just, and then not to mention that, yeah, you can spam it, but there's no big heal that he can come out with, no saving heal like an Ancestral or anything like to really save anybody. So I think that he's definitely not really a solo healer unless you've got like a real poke comp where you don't want to engage at all. But that being said, like he does have some cool setup utility with his Heraldric Cube and his Scroll Ceiling, but his heals just feel so tough to like accurately get to who you want to. You think?
Well, the thing is that like Stukov doesn't have a life-saving ultimate either, right? And he's like the new hotness in the meta, right? So, you don't have to have a life-saving ultimate like Lily's Jugs or Tranquility from Malfurion to be a viable solo healer. But they all like the thing is that with Stukov does quite a bit of damage and provides a more instantaneous crowd control, while Deckard Cain is going to be more like a wombo combo type of thing that you have to set up with another ultimate probably to get tremendous value out of him.
Yeah, at least Stukov, you've got the disengage, and then also his heal, like when you press your D button, is a fairly sizable one. So like, especially if you talent into it in a certain way, like there's the questing talent that I like taking, I think it's level 4, you can get like pretty massive heal, especially late game, like almost 50% of like a person's life, right? And it's on them because you press the Q on them, it goes right to the guy, it's not a skill shot, then you just have to wait, and as long as your D's off cooldown, you still have that, you've got your disengage. Whereas I feel like Deckard doesn't really have a great disengage. I mean, I guess you can use Lornado, or you can use like your big AoE route, you can run through it so people can't run into you or else get rooted, right? So maybe there's a little disengage there, but I don't feel like there's that panic button that most other supports have to a certain degree. So that's why I feel like he's not the greatest.
The panic button is to just throw your scroll right below your feet.
Still though, it doesn't push everyone away, right?
No, but his level 20, if you get the Stay a While and Listen ultimate, that's really, really good ultimate at level 20. Even at level 10, it's really good. So I think he'll have that can also be used as his crowd control too, to help prevent anyone taking damages to pop that defensively.
Yeah, he can put out like decent healing numbers. I did see his mana seemed to be a bit of an issue early game too, but like I feel like in team fights, it's just really difficult as to like function as most healers would as Deckard Cain, unless you've got that big wombo combo. Like I said, like you were saying too, Fringe, he is kind of like the Medivh, or at least you see him as the Medivh of healers, where he takes like a higher skill cap, maybe like higher coordination team to get a lot out of. But if you can get that, you can really get a lot out of maybe Deckard.
Well, I think that Deckard Cain just provides more utility, right? Kind of like Medivh, right? Now Medivh is like the new hotness too, but like old Medivh is like he's really good, but he provides just a lot of utility, so you don't really get to see his contribution in the stat sheet. You see it in the actual gameplay, and I feel as though that's what's going to happen with Deckard Cain, is that he won't have. I think when he gets released, he'll have high healing numbers because he's overtuned. But I think that a month from now, like he's just going to provide utilitarian type of results in the game and not provide like the stats, so people won't see how good or bad he did in the game.
He seems to really rely on others too, because like the scroll ceiling isn't that great unless you have some other way of, even if you use your Heraldric Cube to slow people down before you use it, you can still get out that pretty easily. Like I feel like you need to have the proper team comp to get the most out of Deckard, and probably another healer too, to be honest. And his damage is just so low. Like, there's not much you can really do to get a good damage output out of the guy.
Well, Deckard Cain's gonna be really good in poke comps. So if you go like a Chromie and like, I don't know, like a Greymane. Okay.
You can keep talking. You can keep talking.
It's gonna be really good. So I don't know. I think he's gonna be really good in poke comps. So maybe OP.
I could see in like a Braxis type situation too, maybe where you're constantly in the same area. You can just go back, top up, like you said, poke compy type situations that he might have a good place, maybe as the solo healer there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next topic. Ancient Blessings, I think, is nuts. And I want to see what Mystic and Fringe think about this too. This is Deckard's level 13 talent. This is how it reads. Activate Fortitude of the Faithful, so your trait becomes an activatable D, to empower nearby allied hero basic attacks for 8 seconds. This affects all heroes within a fairly long range, like about auto attack range for like a standard auto attack assassin around Deckard Cain, causing them to deal an additional 80 damage in an area from wherever they hit, plus heal anyone in that targeted area for 120 for each hero hit. I remember when I first saw this, I saw MF Pallytime talking about, he's like, this is going to be nuts with like Lucio's and Genjis. Turns out Blizzard said that there's a 1 second cooldown on the AoE effect, so you can't just turn Lucio into like an AoE bomb healing machine. But still, like, to me, this seems kind of like a crazy talent. Do you guys see this being as crazy as I do?
It is a level 13 talent. I think it's kind of strong for level 13 talent, but yeah, it's actually really strong because it heals any of your melee. It heals, like your tank, and along with the fact that Deckard Cain has to be kind of close, which means he kind of can be affecting your tank with it and your backline, which means there's a lot of AoE healing and damage going around. So it's pretty strong.
This kind of reminds me of Medivh's combo where you protect and explode around all the different heroes that he protects in an area. Like, you get that kind of like mass explosion that they've had a nerf over the last couple patches. Like, this is somewhat similar, is if you can do this on a lot of like melee and ranged assassins. They're all attacking the same target. There's just bombs going off everywhere, healing anyone in range too. I could see a lot of crazy combos here with like just healing up your front line pretty strongly, not to mention that you're also increasing your damage output significantly. Fringe, do you think this is going to be strong? Like, am I crazy here?
Yeah. No, I think the trait talents at 13 and 16 are going to be by far the top 2 picks for those levels. The thing is that the one thing I have with him is that I think he's going to be really bad at the lower levels because you basically, I think you're going to have to go Uther build, right? Like with the gems at 1, 2, at 1, 4, and 7, and lower level players can't do that at all. like the old piano Uther build, and but I do think that like the trait build at 13, 16 is going to be really OP too.
Yeah, it seems like his talents do get stronger later game, so I wonder if that's where he's going to settle in as a later game healer. But yeah, like I said, I think this Ancient Blessings is going to be, if they have to nerf him anywhere or like balance a talent tier, I think it's going to happen at level 13 with Ancient Blessings, because this seems like a pretty strong level 13 talent in general. I had a game where I was 1v1ing a Greymane as Deckard Cain. You turn this on, suddenly you're doing a ton of damage, you're healing yourself. You can just press Alt-Q to instantly heal yourself with your potions that you're spamming too, and Greymane can't sustain through all that like crazy damage that Deckard does with this trait activated too. So anyways, I thought it was kind of nuts. I think it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. It's a good thing that it's got the 1 second cooldown between AoE effects, because that would have been a little bit nuts on those high, fast auto-attacking heroes. Next topic, What-Shimada with you? Nice little pun I threw in there. Genji got some changes on the PTR that have gone live on the PTR as of a couple days ago. The devs said that they think Genji is still a little too frustrating to play against, and that Dragon Blade was a little bit too much like a good Dragon Blade would decide the game or not. So they wanted to try and limit that and make it so that the game didn't just rest on how well Dragon Blade was used. So just going over the changes quickly, there weren't a ton of them. His health and regen was increased by 4.5%. His basic attack damage was increased almost 5%. His jumping trait, D, the cooldown for that was increased from 10 to 12 seconds. Swift Strike's range was reduced quite a bit from 14 to 12. Dragon Blade, the damage was increased from 220 to 240, but hey, Daz, I thought you said they wanted to limit that. Well, the big thing they did is that you don't get a reset on Swift Strike now when you get a kill, so you can't just snowball the Dragon Blade anymore. Level 1, you got a change to Agile Dismount. This is where while you were mounted, when you used your jump, you got an extra boost to your range and also cooldown reduction. The cooldown reduction for that was increased from 5 to 7 seconds to counterbalance the trait change they made there. Level 13 double jump. I think this is kind of crazy, actually. You do now get 2 charges of jump, but before it used to be you get an increased cooldown. Now they don't increase the cooldown anymore, so there's no detracting bit to that. And then level 20, the Dragon Becomes Me, the upgrade to Dragon Blade now will also give you that reset on Swift Strike's cooldown if you have any hero kills. So Genji, like I don't feel like he's that annoying to play against the way that he's been nerfed quite a bit. Do you guys think he's that frustrating still?
I think the main frustrating part for people was that he was very hard to like punish, because if you make all this effort, you catch out the Genji, you're like, all right, I've got you now, and you press the E button, he's gone, right? So I think that was the main frustrating bit for people. I think everything else was just not like a factor for most people. I think personally he was kind of fine because he was really squishy, and it's like you catch him out when his mobility skills are down, because that's mostly what he is, and he's dead.
I feel like there's so many counters to him. You got Varian, you got Brightwing, you got Garrosh, like anything that can stop him in his tracks with or Uther, a point and click stun. Like you can stop him, and like you said, you catch him out, he's easy to blow up. What do you think?
Well, I think this was mostly an HUC nerf, right? Because I think that if Fan plays, Genji, he's a completely different character than if Bacon. Well, actually, any character that Bacon plays isn't very good, but you know what I mean. But I think it's mostly just a HUC thing, and I think that they did this with Tracer too, where all these Overwatch characters have come into the Nexus with tons of hypermobility, and I think they've starting to realize that there's maybe an issue with having this type of mobility in HOTS. So they're trying to they nerfed Tracer's mobility, and then now they nerfed Genji's mobility too, and they just amped up his damage to compensate.
I guess they're listening to all the complaints about the mobility creep finally, eh? But
I just don't think that type of mobility, it works. I guess it works well in Overwatch, but I don't think it really translates very well into HOTS. I think the Overwatch characters in general have been too faithful to the actual Overwatch game, and they haven't really thought about how that fits into the game of HOTS.
I mean, as far as these changes go, though, I really like these changes personally, because it not only gives that counterplay to Genji that everybody's like, oh, we need more counterplay to Genji, Okay, his Swift Strike doesn't go as far anymore. It's actually pretty noticeable. Cyber Agility cooldown is up. That's pretty noticeable, but they give him more damage. So I like it that Blizzard's just like, well, I know we're taking the complaints of everybody and giving him more counterplay, but we're also compensating him because we think that, he was at an okay place, but you guys don't think so. You guys think he needs more counterplay, so we're buffing these other areas, to give Genji something back, because in Hero League right now, and his win rate isn't exactly the best. So.
Yeah, I don't hate the mobility creep that's been happening. I mean, it's hurt some of the older heroes like your Valas and Rainers of the world that you don't see much of anymore. But I think as long as there's counterplay, as long as you can punish them if they make a mistake coming in, I think it's fine. I don't think that Genji's range was necessarily a problem. Maybe the resets in the Dragon Blade was a bit much, because that can the fight can go so one side. It's very Li Ming resets kind of thing, right? You just blow up. But still, like, maybe Fringe is onto something, saying this is more of like an HGC targeted nerf, because I guess maybe we're going to see Genji just fall even lower in Hero League to the point where he only is played by people who are really, really good at him, or HGC players to get any effectiveness out of him.
Well, I mean, wasn't Genji's win rate before these changes like 40% on hot slogs?
It was pretty.
Right? I mean,
it was low, yeah, and that's why I was surprised this came up here. I mean, I can check quickly to see what it's at, but I feel like these, yeah, like looking at it here, 45%. He's like the 4th lowest across all leagues according to hot slogs.
Yeah, so I feel like the only reason why they would nerf someone like this is because of HGC. That's the only thing I could think of. Like, usually when if you take any other character with that low of a win rate, they usually get buffed, not nerfed. So, I don't know.
I guess it's all right too. I like playing Genji, but if you're nerfing his effectiveness for everybody except for HGC, I feel like you're not going to have a lot of people that are going to get a good opportunity to play him in the actual game, which is kind of unfortunate. But it's tough because Blizzard has to balance for all these levels, and they can't just have heroes that are so strong or strong in HGC run amok without doing anything, and having to balance something for HGC while keeping it viable for like us plebs is a challenge in itself, I imagine.
No, I do not envy the balanced team at HOTS at all.
And no matter what you do, you're gonna have someone yelling at you, right?
Job's done.
Okay. Well, anyways, moving on to the next topic, we've got good low rank heroes. So Kala has recently released a video, and in the video he explains why he thinks heroes are strong at high levels are equally strong at lower levels. Fringe today, I was asking him what topics he wanted to talk about on the show. He was like, I went off as soon as I saw this Kala video. There's a lot of things that he said that I didn't believe were true or accurate. So I really want to hear what Fringe has to say about this. Fringe, you want to give us a bit of an intro? Let us know exactly what the problem is here with what Kala was talking about, or what the context for the video was.
Yeah. All right. So first things first, I actually enjoy his content very much. I think he's a very smart person. I think he is a very good person to have in the HOTS community. But in the video he talks about like how do you climb out of like lower levels, right? What characters should you be playing, right? And he gave recommendations of like Genji, for example. And obviously this video came out before the PTR changes, but he recommended like Greymane, and like, which makes sense. Genji, I don't think it makes sense at all, but he also does coaching on the side for lower level players too, so he has some idea of what the meta is at that particular level. But then towards the end of the video, he talks about, you don't want to play Asmodan, you don't want to play specialists like Nazeebo. And like I was like, what are you talking about? Like, the reason why Nazeebo is so good is because on maps where he can get his stacks at level 20, Nazeebo is really good. And the thing is that with lower level games, is that games don't end. Like if you get like a 3-man team wipe, what happens is that teams will get camps and then do the objective. They won't just go take down a keep down and then do something else. They'll just, saunter around the map and not really end the game. And that's why a lot of teams or a lot of players go with Nazeebo, because games don't end in that level. And to take a step backwards is that I'm always a little somewhat annoyed when you have these really high level players that talk about the meta and saying, oh, this is what you should be doing, but you have no idea. You don't play in these games. You don't know what it's like to play 100 games in bronze and grind up to silver or to gold, right? And basically when you said the Nazeebo comment, I just like you have no idea what you're talking about, because if you're playing Tomb of the Spire Queen, if you're playing on Infernal Shrines even, like Nazeebo is a very good, he's like a tier S character at bronze or low silver. And I think he was just giving bad information. I think Genji, even before the nerfs, Genji should not be played at that level at all, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't know if you guys saw the video or not, or have any thoughts on it.
I did, and I was kind of surprised that he kind of glazed over Sonya as well as another hero that he didn't say was necessarily like one of the stronger ones to play in the lower leagues. But I mean, maybe you disagree with me here, Fringe. I think if you're a good Genji, if you're good at any of those like higher skill cap heroes, you probably have an easier time to like mop up in the lower leagues. Is that, you don't agree with that? Like that's where I would see him coming along the lines with Genji, because if you can Genji a good Genji, if you're decent with them, I feel like that's a good hero to climb out of the league with.
Yeah, like if you put Mystic on Genji on my account, yeah, he'll get out of silver really quickly, right? But like most players who are placed in silver probably belong in silver, and they don't have the mechanical skill to be good at that type of character. So that's the thing. That's the rub, right? So basically, what he should have just said is just pick self-sustaining characters that can do everything on their own, where you don't need any help. So like a Sonya or like a Greymane, where you can just go get camps, you can rotate, clear lanes, all by yourself, so you don't have to rely on anyone. That's basically what he should have said.
So you're saying don't trust your teammates.
At that level, yeah, pretty much. That's why LiQuiuD plays Sonya, so does Bags in Hero League. They exclusively play that character because of that very fact that they're self-sustaining. They can do whatever they want. They don't need the team to help them get camps. If you're Rhaegar, you can get a camp, but you're going to be gone for like a minute getting that camp. Or if you want to clear lanes, it's going to be kind of a pain in the butt. So,
So if we need Fringe's top 5 to climb out of the low ranks, what 5 heroes would you tell us to play, Fringe?
Well, the thing is that people always equate their Hero League ranking to their true talent level, and that's not necessarily true. Like I said this before the show, and I'll say it again, is that there are master level players who only play Asmodan and Gazlo. That's it. Are they master players? No, they're not. They're just master Gazlo players. That doesn't mean they're a master level player. So I think the goal of Hero League is don't focus on ranking out of your current level. Maybe just focus on getting better game by game and just doing that. But to answer your question, so I think basically you want to learn how to play Sonya. You want to learn how to play Greymane. You probably want to learn how to play other self-sustained, like maybe Blaze is really good. Just characters that you can just do anything you want by yourself, essentially. That's what I would recommend. But I think just playing Bush League, you'll get way better playing in that league than playing in Hero League or Team League, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move along to the next topic here a little bit early. So the solo lane is the next one here. We're going to talk a little bit about heroes that you can play in the solo lane, maybe talk about some matchups. I kind of want to pick Mystic's brain in this a little bit, because and Fringe's too, because Fringe plays a mean Sonya. And I know a lot of people, especially on the GankBush Squad, give you flack, Fringe, but I was watching your Sonya, and I think it's pretty on point, at least the games that I saw you play in. I think you play well above your level, and you're saying before, where your place isn't necessarily play level, and different heroes you can play better on and play above your level, and I think Sonya's one that you've got down pat. But in terms of the solo lane, like if someone like me came to you, Mystic, and was like, I don't really play solo laners, where should I start? Are there any like generally good ones or matchups that I should be kind of like wary of going into that solo lane?
Well, if you came to me and depending on your skill level, I guess, if you had no skill in the game, like whatsoever, I would just say play Muradin and just soak the lane. Like
I can do that.
As far as like, if you're average skill in the game and you're like, I'm the solo laner, I want to play solo lane. Some good solo laners would probably be Sonya. She doesn't have the mana problems. You have to generate Fury, but that's pretty easy. You have self-sustain. That's also really good. And then some other ones would probably be Phoenix. Same deal. He doesn't have mana. He's really tanky, and he even has an escape, and he's ranged, and he clears pretty well too. So some more specific like matchup focused ones. If you're up against a melee, Malthael is really good. If you're up against a range, you just get dumpstered as Malthael usually. Some of the more key aspects of that is range generally beat melee unless the melee can manage to self-sustain and like hit the ranged a little bit. So it's kind of like give and take there.
So why would you ever pick a melee solo laner then, if you know that you could potentially get bullied out by a ranged one? Is it just because like maybe you see them pick a melee one first, and you're like, okay, well I can take a Sonya in here and it gives us a little bit more frontline?
Well, the most general reason is that your team needs a melee. Like you see Sonya being picked, right? You see some other tankier heroes being picked. That's because your team needs it. But other people can pick Junkrat in the solo lane. Junkrat's a pretty good solo laner just because of his range. It's like it's more of a high skill or higher skill solo laners because you can't get hit because of your low health pool. But so you have to stay back and poke, right? Yeah, it's generally like, do you want to win the matchup versus do you want to like does your solo laner fit into the hero, like your composition more? Like you could totally pick a ranged hero into a melee hero if you want. It's like if you kind of base your team around that, like you're going to win the matchup, that's great. But it's if you choose that way, but your team actually needs like some sort of another frontliner, then it's you're giving up that frontliner versus for winning that lane a little bit harder.
Okay, so you don't want to pick your solo laner just to win the matchup necessarily. You want to make sure you've got a well-rounded 5-man comp. So like what do you do if you like find yourself in a situation where you're like, I know I can't win this lane? Like what do you do there?
Well, number one rule, don't die. Second rule is if you can't win the matchup, focus on clearing the waves as much as possible. Like if you're let's just say you're Blaze and you're in silver, right? However, for whatever reason, matchmaking screwed you over and you're playing against like a platinum Malthael or something, and you know that he just destroys you because his mechanics are way better than yours. So what you do is you just focus on clearing the waves, staying at your turret, and just going, hey Malthael, I know that you're a lot better than me, and I know that you're probably going to destroy me in the solo lane, but I'm just going to nullify that just by clearing the waves and just soaking the lane and not dying. So what you have essentially done is made his contribution to his team, like at that moment in time, equal to yours. Even though he might be a much better player than you, you've equalized this this contribution to the team there.
Yeah. Also, what you could do is freeze the wave by having the next waves come by your turrets. So then, if Malthael overextends, right, you can get on voice comm, either in Hero League or Team League, and just call for a gank, and then you can kill him, right? Because he'll be overextended because he'll be clearing the lane by the freeze the lane, and then you can get kills that way, and then you can definitely win doing that as well.
Yeah, and one thing I think people don't appreciate enough too is like when you get a gank, that's well and good, but ganking the solo laner has much more value than any other ganks because they might miss a wave of experience as well as the experience they lose from the actual death itself. So one thing I like to do is kind of what Fringe is saying as well. Like you bait the solo laner if you're losing the matchup, you call someone over, you get the kill, they miss a wave or two of soak, and then your ganking friend just goes back his merry way back to like the 4-man or whatever you have set up on the map. So
and also yeah, go for it, Mystic.
I was just gonna say there's also the opposite end of that spectrum, whereas if like you send 3 people top and you're ganking the solo laner, however, if you don't kill him, you just sent 3 people top, and there's more people out on the map for your enemies, and then they can push harder in another lane or something like that.
And one more thing is that if you get a gank off early on against that better Malthael player, if you kill him in like in the first 2 minutes, like then that Malthael player will be less aggressive in lane, which gives you the opportunity to actually hold your own after that, because he'll know like oh no, the ATC's in the bush, maybe I won't go out that far from my lane anymore. So
FringeAverage instills fear in his enemies. That's his strategy. That's a good one.
I may not be good mechanically, but I know how to play the game.
Oh, it's a psychological game too, right? No, it's true though. If you can get someone on their toes and they're playing safer, you've made them play less optimally. You've got to win there, right? So that's exactly what you're saying to do. Yeah. Bush League. We've been talking about like throughout the show, but we're officially going to talk about it now for about 5 minutes. We're coming to the 4th week of Bush League now. We've talked about what it is, so I'm not going to go over that again. But one thing that I want to talk about specifically is how we've got kind of this neat community forming around it. We've got Goon Hots doing replay analysis. Schizophrenic is doing weekly recap articles. San is just started up a series of interviews he's going to be doing on a regular basis as well. I think it's kind of crazy. Were you expecting this, Fringe, when we started this idea? I remember like when we first started, you're like, I'm kind of worried that people aren't going to show up every week, but that's definitely not the case.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I didn't want to do it. And you're the one who said, let's do it. And I was all right, let's do it. Because, I just wanted to have an organically. And then you just said, no, if you build it, people will come. And you were actually right. So all the props to you there. But I think after the first week when everyone came and played, and I think people got it, because I think if you're playing that type of format, I think most people who play HOTS, so most people who play HOTS and listen to shows like ours are pretty competitive about the game, right? So it's only natural that people, after they play the first week, whether you win or lost, you're like, holy crap, I actually want to do better. And there are people like after the first week, in our Discord that said, hey, Bacon, can you do a replay analysis of our game? And like he got 5 or 6 people to ask him for replay help. So I think it's just I think it's really fun. I think you learn more, you get better at the game playing in this format than any other format, at least in my opinion, because you're actually playing the same players again, and you're also playing a team that's similarly at your skill level, and and there's less dumb stuff that happens. There's no one, soloing, like there's no Lily soloing top lane by herself for the first 5 minutes, and and I've had many people who are in the league tell me that they look forward to playing this more than anything else all week, and that they if you are paying attention to all the content that's being created by people, you can learn a lot. And there are people on my team that I know have listened to the GoonHots replays, and on other teams, and they're learning a lot. They're actually improving dramatically. Even your own teammate Ender Wigan is getting way better now. Like I can see it from game to game, where he's getting a little bit more confident in how to play. So it's really cool. But no, to answer your question, no, I did not think this was going to happen.
I just think it must be like filling this void that people didn't realize they had in the game, because I played in Chair League for a few seasons and I enjoyed that, but it's a different kind of league than Bush League. Bush League feels like you've got like 30 friends getting together and playing like some organized plays. Like all the people on all the teams, or at least we're getting to know each other. It's not like you're just going in Chair League. We're like, okay, we're playing, what's the name of the team this week? And you don't know anybody on the other team. We're all in the same Discord. We're all like, just chirping at each other too, and like having fun. We're watching all the games. It's created this real cool community. Not to mention like everyone, I'm surprised. I was really surprised with things like Goon and Bacon doing the replay analysis, and like San and Schizo and others too. I saw someone in the Discord today like putting up some stats on like a website that they put together too for Bush League. I was like, holy crap, people are like really into this idea, and they're like having a lot of fun with it, and it feels really good, not only from a participant standpoint, but from the standpoint of someone who's like involved in the organization of it, that it is kind of like taking on a life of its own.
Yeah, and this is the closest thing, at least for me, that I'll ever get to playing in a type of HEC format, because the thing is that it is kind of like that, because you're playing a team, and like if you're playing Team 4, they have a pool of characters that they only play, and the meta changes for that particular team that you're playing. So you have to actually think about, how does your team go against your opponent? You have to think about like what you have to think about, like the draft more. You have to think about like what map works well for the draft you want to implement. And it's actually it's the mental HOTS pornography, because you're thinking about all these different things of how to get the slight advantage against the team that you're facing that week. And to me, I said this on my show, that thinking about the draft is way more exciting than actually playing the game, because it's actually really fun. Because every team is different. You can't just like, if you're playing Team League, right? Like, oh, who's in the meta? Phoenix is in the meta. We'll ban Phoenix out. But like maybe if you're playing Team A, they don't play Phoenix, so maybe they play Maev, or maybe they're really good at Falstad. You have to decide which two to ban.
Little pro tip: just ban Phoenix. We tried that in week 2, letting Phoenix go through, because we're like, they don't like two of them own Phoenix. They're both like level 2s. We're like, they're not going to take Phoenix. They don't have any playtime with them. Then they took it and wrecked us with Phoenix. So,
well, what you need to do is actually go look at their match history and see that they got all their 8 games that day.
Yeah, I guess
for
so.
Phoenix. Yeah.
Well, Fringe, I gotta say, you gotta expect some cheese coming from us. We've been talking some cheese strats now, so I think it's gonna be fun. You're gonna have a tough time predicting what we're gonna do. Look at our match history as much as you want to. You're not gonna glean anything from it.
Oh, it's okay. I expect to see a Shen Morales on Sky Temple or something like that.
Oh, you figured us out.
Yeah.
The final topic of today is the life of a podcaster. Both myself and Fringe have started our own podcast. Mystic's been along for the ride with me on the Nexus Trolls since episode 1, which was actually our second episode because we did episode 0. So I think it's kind of a good time to sit back and just reflect on what it's like to start a podcast and like keep it going for so long, because I mean, you guys are 109, I think, or 108 episodes in, and we're 76 in. So this isn't just like a passing fad. We've decided to do this to stick. Like Fringe, like, were you expecting to go this long with your podcasting? Like, and what's it like on any given week trying to organize everyone and getting everyone to show up, organizing guests, like all that kind of stuff?
You know, it's like any other thing where like there's some weeks you really enjoy it and there's some weeks where you really don't want to do it, but you do it ananyway. It's kind of like, at least for me, it's kind of like a job at this point. And at first I didn't start off as that. But for the most part, organizing my team is pretty painless. Because we have a set schedule. We never really alter it at all. So everyone pretty much knows what they should be doing. As with anything, anytime that there's a team-oriented thing, there's always one person that does all the work, right? So, you know, that's why, you know, usually that falls on me. But like with Bacon, he does like a lot of the post work for the live stream, which is great. But you know, like I said, it's I don't know. There are weeks I really like doing it. There are weeks where I don't want to do it, and that's just true with anything, I think. But it's been a long time. I didn't think it was going to be this long. I kind of thought we would end it at 100, but we're still going. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how else to say about that.
Yeah, you know what? I've seen the exact same thing too. And it's not something that probably either of us really talk too much about on our actual respective shows, but it does feel like there's cycles where you're like, maybe like I shouldn't be doing this so long. It's taking up so much time. Like it's such a time commitment that you question whether or not you know, it's a good idea to keep going, and then you just keep tracking along, but then it feel like it comes back again, right? And you're like, yeah, this is so fun, and like you kind of find the fun again. You remember why you started doing it in the first place. So it's just kind of getting through those periods of those lulls or whatever to kind of truck on through. And sorry to interrupt, but like a lot of times people think that like it's pretty easy. You just sit down in front of a microphone for an hour and a half and then you're done. But no, that's not usually how it works. Like there's a prep work before the show to figure out what you're going to talk about. Then you have to think about, then, you know, at least with me, like you have to post stuff to YouTube, right? That takes a long time. That takes like an hour or two to do that properly. And then you have to put the show up, or at least edit it, get it ready to go so that it sounds good. And then you got to put it on Discord, you got to put it on Twitter. So you have to do this whole process that, you know, that no one really thinks about. They just assume that, oh, it just happens, but like these trolls come out of your washing machine and do these stuff for you. But no, there's actually a person doing it, and that's why it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of like a job. Yeah.
So.
And even just the amount of time that it took when we first started compared to now, I feel like there is just a lot more. Like before, we didn't have a Patreon. We didn't have like this Trolls GG network where we had to like tweet things out and like post everything on Discord. Like there seems to be like a lot more that kind of builds up on it too. And like, don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, I don't want to come across like I'm complaining, because I definitely enjoy what I'm doing. And if I didn't enjoy doing this, I would stop doing this, and I have no intention of stopping this anytime soon. But it definitely can be quite the grind to get through.
Yeah, no, and you know it's very funny to me, and I still don't have, this is an open question, but like, you know, people expect, obviously we do this for free for the most part, right? And people expect it to be done for free. Like, you know, some people, you know, again, I'm not complaining about this at all. I'm just saying I find it very fascinating that people will go to Starbucks and give that barista $1, right? But like you're with that person for like 2 minutes. But like, you know, with people who do music or people who do books or people who do podcasts, you know, like small, you know, works like us, they don't even think about, you know, signing up for Patreon and stuff like that. And like with me, I'm like the opposite. Like I support shows that I like. I support bands that I like. I think it's very important to support the artists, and I think that I don't understand that phenomena where like you'll tip the bartender, you know, for giving you a beer, but someone who gives you, you know, like we've given people over like what 300 hours of free content, and you know we like of our Patreon we get like 1% of the people who give us anything on Patreon, which is I don't know. I just think it's very interesting and kind of weird. But anyway,
I like the whole like I'm gonna call it the free to play model, because you see that in like mobile games and such too, where you know you have like a game, for instance, like I've been playing Summoner's War recently, which is a horrible time-wasting game, which I suggest no one ever tries. So I'm not even going to put the link in the show notes. But if you play that game, most people don't pay a cent. It doesn't cost anything to play the game. But then there's people that pump hundreds, thousands of dollars into it because they do these microtransactions and or they support the developers or whatever in different ways, right? And I kind of like that model because viewers, like some people don't have the extra money to throw out. Some people have extra disposable cash and like to support. Some people like to support you in different ways by like leaving like an iTunes review or whatever. And I'm glad that there's no paywall in front of like any of the shows that I know of in the HOTS community too. Everyone does this kind of freemium model where if you want to support the show, great. We can encourage you to go do that, but you don't have to, so that we can get the content out there. And I think it actually helps in the long run too, because it increases your audience size, your potential audience, by not like forcing people to pay for episodes and such.
Oh yeah, no, and I totally agree. I think if some people obviously can't support, right? But like I just like the mentality seems to be, well, these are anything. I think anything creative doesn't really get supported, at least in America, by people. I don't know. I think, like I said, even like big podcasts like Sam Harris, right? Only 1% of the people that listen to his show support him in any way financially, and those, he's speaking to like people that probably can support. I just think it's very funny that
it's
anyway,
the crux of the
mind.
internet, right? Like everyone has the internet and expects everything to be free and have that accessibility. Like if someone made you pay for Gmail, right? You'd be like, what? Why do I pay for Gmail? It should be free, right? Like you're just there's just expectations. I know there's like other ways they monetize things with ads and like information and stuff, but it's you get what I'm trying to say though. Like you get access to a lot of content for free online. Well,
Gmail is free, but actually each Gmail account is worth about $700 to Google, so it's not really free.
What I'm saying is like we don't have to pay for it, so there's the expectation of having to pay. I shouldn't have used Google. As soon as I said the word Google and Gmail being free, I saw you kind of like twinge. I was like, oh no, Fringe is going to say something to destroy my analogy. But
I've been working in online marketing for like 12 years, so I know
they get
the whole
their
thing.
They get their value out of it, but it's more the consumer's expectation of having to do monetary transactions to get content, to get services online, is more what I'm getting at. Whereas like 20, 30 years ago, like if you want to pay for mail, you have to put a postage stamp on it, right? You can't just send stuff for free. So the expectation has changed with the advent of the internet. Yeah,
and like again, I'm not referring to my podcast because we're fine in terms financially, in terms of everything. But like I've always found it funny. Like there are people that I've met who love bands, right? But they never even give that band $1 ever for anything. And I'm like, don't you want them to continue to make music, right? You like them, right? Like if they make money, then they'll keep doing what they want to do. But sometimes a lot of bands that I've liked, I had to stop because they make no money from it, and it just makes me sad.
It is, yeah, and like I said, same here. The Nexus Trolls too. Like if we don't ever try and force people to go over to Patreon and sign up. Like it's completely up to you and like whatever your situation is. And like Fringe is saying the same thing for their podcast. Like we're gonna do this even if no one does donate anything on these outlets. But it is nice to see when people do go and support the content creators.
And the costs are pretty high. People think that it doesn't cost anything because like I think we both use Blueberry, right, to host our stuff, right? That's like $40-$50. Like it costs money to get like a host a website, do all these other things. People just assume that like it just comes out of thin air, that these shows just magically appear. Anyway, sorry.
I like my rose sunglasses. I think that people generally I feel like it's more of a small minority that probably don't appreciate it as much, but those ones tend to be more the vocal kind. So, anyways, I don't want to get bogged down on this too much. So let's move along to the final segment of today's show, and that's Mystic's Shakedown.
Mystic, I require service of you. I come to you as a friend, asking you to shake down this situation for me.
So Mystic, shake down the situation for me.
Okay, so this week I'm going to be talking about hero playstyles. Now, everybody knows like the roles that we have here. We have like damage, we have, assassin, I guess, tank, and we have healer and such. and I guess specialist is in there too, and so is multi-class. But so each hero, like if you're playing a tank, what you're expecting from a tank, right, is that they go in, they engage, they take a lot of damage, and they just are really tanky, right? But each hero, like they're special in themselves. Just because they're a tank doesn't necessarily mean like that's all they do. So some of the examples I have here is like Blaze, right? So he's a tank. He goes in and engages, and he does exactly what you expect of a tank. But he's also a regeneration tank, where a lot of his sustain comes from like a little bit of armor here, and like him standing on his own fire, which regenerates his health. Now Diablo, he's also an engaged tank where he like goes in, he uses everything, his APOC and stuff like that, and he goes in, but he's a soak tank instead, where he has a very, very high health pool and like some armor also, where he just soaks a bunch of damage. He doesn't really like have a taunt or anything where he's like, all right, everybody attack me. It's just that he goes in there and he's there and people attack him because they're afraid of him, right? And then so as on the opposite side here, you have Garrosh, right? Who goes in, he could take like a moderate amount of damage. He's not like super, super tanky, but he thrives off of the fact that he can stay in there for a really long time, get off his W's, and regenerate his health that way. So, he's more of like a long-term kind of sustain tank. And then the same can be said for like damage dealers as well, where if you have like Gul'dan, for example, he does a lot of sustain damage. If you were looking for an assassin that, does a lot of burst damage, maybe choosing Gul'dan is not the best option here. So each hero like has their own playstyle, and just because they fit into like a role doesn't mean like that's all that they do. For example, like Genji, he's a finisher, and his playstyle is hit and run. He doesn't actually like go in and deal a bunch of burst damage. He goes in, finishes off someone, and runs away and does it again like a couple seconds later when your team gets low.
It's funny. I feel like a lot of the heroes that I like kind of tend towards specific play styles. And whenever a new hero comes out, if it doesn't match that play style, I tend to have a negative opinion of them. I feel like that's almost what I've come up with Deckard. Maybe that's why I came across a bit negative about him earlier. I was like, he's just not really in my play style, doing that slow self-sustain area, like control healing. So maybe that's my problem here. And I think I generally, when I play with people, they tend to float towards certain play styles. And I think this is kind of a good illustration of that.
Yeah, like some of the playstyles like Genji, he's very active, right? He has 3 charges on his Q, he has his W, his E, right? He's always doing something, and that can be the same for like Junkrat, right? He has multiple charges on his Q, he's always doing something, he's very, very active. Compared to like Diablo, where, his spells are on kind of a long cooldown, so you use the spell, make sure you use it effectively, because you're not going to have that for like the next 6 to 8 seconds or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think this is where we're going to tail off the show. So let's do a little sign off here. And first, what we always do when we sign off is thank our chieftain, Super Dave, for pledging his support to the trolls. You too can be a chieftain just like Super Dave. If you pledge above a certain threshold on patreon.com, you'll get credits at the end of every show on both the Nexus Trolls and Troll and HGC. But thanks, everybody, for listening to Nexus Trolls, a Heroes of the Storm podcast, which we stream live on this Twitch channel, twitch.tv/TrollsGG, every week on Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Fringe, people are looking for you and your podcast. Where can they find it?
You can just go to GankBushSquad.com. You'll find links to everything that you need to interact with us.
Do you use Twitter?
Again, thank you for having us.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry?
Do you use Twitter at all? I was trying to see if you use Twitter that much, but usually when I want to tweet to you, I just tweet to your like @GankBush Twitter.
Yeah, that's the hots one. I have my own personal one, but that's mostly baseball stuff. So no one wants to see my baseball tweets. So just go to the GankBush Squad Twitter, and that's pretty much me managing that too.
Fair enough. Mystic, how about you, bud? Where can people find you?
You can find me at Mystic Shroud on Twitter.
And you can find me at DazHots on Twitter. Thanks to all our patron supporters. If you'd like the show and you're looking for a way to support us, you can do so at patreon.com/TrollsGG. I already kind of said that, so I don't know why I said that again. If you want, you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you happen to find your podcasts online. You can also visit our website at trolls.gg/TheNexusTrolls to watch this and past shows, along with past video streams, which also can be found on our YouTube channel. for announcements about the show and general Heroes of the Storm news, you can follow us on Twitter at @TheNexusTrolls or our network at @TrollsGG, all one word. If you'd like to hang out with the Trolls community in-game, you can /join TrollsGG in-game, or you can join our Discord channel as well, trolls.gg/Discord. And finally, if you need to get in touch with us, the best way is by email at TheNexusTrolls @TrollsGG. Fringe, I'm glad we decided to lower our standards and have you on today, bud. It was a blast.
Oh, thanks. It was really good being here.
We'll have to do it again sometime for sure.
Yeah.
And Mystic, thanks as always for joining us. Everybody, thanks for listening. Have a great week.
'Cause I'm TNT, I'm dynamite.